Hey everybody, welcome back to Music and Ministry. My name is Keegan Sadhu. This video is part two of Let's Talk Tracks. If you missed the first video that I put out a couple weeks back, maybe 3-4 weeks back at this point, I gave some reasons, 4 reasons really, why I think using tracks and incorporating them in your worship sets can be a great benefit, a great tool to help you. But there are times and reasons why maybe you're not ready or you shouldn't be doing it just yet. But as promised in that video, this is part two where I'm going to dive into a little bit, not too heavy, but a little bit into how we're running tracks at our church right now, Walking in Victory Church in Haltom City, Texas. And the easiest setup, I think, for somebody to use if they want to get started. So as I mentioned in that other video, there's Ableton, there's Playback, there's Prime, there's several different options out there that are kind of the main options people are using to run tracks. And some are simpler and some are more extensive. So I'm going to just jump right into it, share what we're using and why I think this would be the best place for you to get started if you're not already using tracks. So we are set up, we subscribe to and use the Multitracks platform. So if you're not familiar with multitracks.com, go and check that out. They are an amazing resource for worship teams, worship leaders, and so they provide tracks, number one, just like Prime does or Loop Community. But then they have an app that is incredible called Playback, and that is the app that you use to download your tracks to decide on your arrangement. You can even create fades for when you want to fade out of the song. You can have pads that kind of play throughout the song or just at the beginning or the end of a song to help glue your songs together as you're going through your entire set. There's pads that you can just play. If all you want is a click and a pad, you can do that. I mean, it's really a phenomenal tool and it's very simple to use. You can run it off your iPhone, your actual iPad, or now they have a desktop app as well. And that's what I've been using. I find that for me, I like to have the playback rig, if you will, off to the side of the stage where I don't have to worry about lugging it around or connecting it in the middle of the stage or different things like that. So I use the desktop app. I run that on my MacBook laptop, and then I run that is connected to a Play Audio 12 by iConnectivity, and that is what we're sending the tracks to. That then goes to our front of house. And so what that allows me to do is separate the click, the guide, and then run our tracks in stereo, which is great. That is going to give you the best result. If you just run the Playback app, for example, out of your iPad or your phone, you can still split it to a left and right, but what that's going to do is put your click and guide solely on your left channel together, and then all your tracks will run on the right side. And so you don't get stereo, number one, you just get a dual mono, which isn't the worst thing, but it's not the best. And then your team doesn't have the ability to adjust the click and guide separately. So if they need more of the click in their ear, more volume, but they don't want more guide, they can't do that if they're tied together. So I think using a solution, whether that's, I think you can get a Focusrite interface, something that has 4 outputs that allows you to do the setup that we're doing, that I just said, to put your click in a separate lane, if you will, or track, guide in a separate track, and then your left and right stereo of your instrument tracks. So that's what we use. So every week I set up our playback. I have it loaded on my laptop, and I send that, like I said, that goes through our Play Audio 12 and then back to our soundboard, which is a Behringer X32. Very simple, easy to use. And then I also kind of take an extra step. So sometimes I'm leading from keys and I'm right next to our rig, where I could just lean over if I wanted to and fire up the track. And sometimes, though, I lead towards the middle of the stage and I'm playing acoustic guitar and I've got my iPad Pro in front of me with my music stand. And so sometimes when I'm out front, what I like to do is I'll actually run another application called the Touch OSC. And this is a virtual MIDI controller that you can create and set it up and design it any way you want. It's very cool. And then I have that linked to the MIDI mapping on the Playback app, which is another great feature that they allow. So you can control the Playback app from something hardwired, like MIDI controller that's, you know, connected through USB or USB-C to your actual device, or you can run it with a virtual MIDI controller, which is what I do. So the reason I do that is because it allows me to be, you know, right where I need to be in leading, but I can also just right from my iPad, I can fire up a loop. If I want to just fire up a pad, I can do that. If I want to start a song, I can do that. If I want to stop it, if I want to loop a section, it's just literally right there in front of me. I can just tap it and I have that complete control, which allows the flexibility in the worship set. So it's a great way to do it. I know some people frown upon wireless setups because obviously if you're just running on Wi-Fi, you know, it may not respond 100% of the time the way you want it to. So you got to be aware of that. But in most cases, I found that 99% of the time, I don't have any issue with the cues being sent from either the desktop computer, the laptop, to the sound booth computer, or from my iPad Pro to my laptop. So it seems to run pretty smooth week in and week out. Although I will say I am diving into running MIDI over RTP, which then will allow me to send those MIDI cues over Ethernet, which is a whole nother deal and probably the best way to do it, so that you don't have to worry about Wi-Fi dropping off or anything. But when I get that set up and running, maybe I'll do another video to show you how we can do that. But anyway, if you want to learn more about these, I'll have links in the description to where you can find out about multitracks.com, find out about the playback app, and I'll even put a link to the Play Audio 12 and the Touch OSC, all the things that we're using, that I'm using right now for us to run our tracks. I'll put links in the description. And if you have any questions, let me know. If you need some help setting this up and getting started, like I said, there is a cost. Well, I said this in the first video. There is a cost, so you got to factor that in. The tracks typically run between $35 and $42 or something like that per track if you're going to buy them. They also have an option where you can rent the tracks, and then you have the ability to use them for a week or 7 days, I think. And so there's a subscription for that. If you're going to use Rehearsal Mix, which is one of the great benefits that I talked about in the first video, which allows your team to be able to rehearse right along with the actual tracks you're going to be playing with in your rehearsal, and then on the weekend there's a cost for that depending on how many people you have on your team and so on and so forth. So but look into it. I think it's worth it. I think the flexibility, the resources that it gives, not only you as the leader, but the way it empowers your team, is so incredibly helpful and so beneficial that I think it's well worth the investment if you're able to do it. And yeah, I guess that's it. So if you have any other questions about this, let me know. I'm going to keep the videos coming much more frequently now that I'm feeling better. I've got a few things on my mind already that I want to get to next. But again, I hope you have a great Easter weekend if you're watching this before Easter. And if you have any other questions regarding playing tracks or how to get started, I mean it. Don't hesitate to send me a message. Let me know how I can help you. God bless y'all. I'll see you next time.